A lot of things stood out. I think it was very similar to what we talked about in here last night. I think we played really hard. It was justified kind of in both just the blink observation of every phase, and then also just how we measure our guys' efforts from a science standpoint. Our effort was good. It was great relatively to the rest of our games from earlier this season, and then that kind of makes it that much more frustrating of some of the mistakes that we made, which again is on me first, our coaches second, and our players third in terms of our execution or lack thereof in each phase. But the guys came in, had a good attitude this morning. Came in, we met, we worked out a little bit, had a little team meeting, and they'll have the rest of today, tomorrow, and Sunday off, with the exception of treatment, and come back ready to go for UCLA.
Certainly heard some dramatic suggestions from fans about things to get back on course. How do you balance sort of taking a big picture approach to things that can be changed dramatically, and then staying the course and sort of trusting the process as it's been laid out already?
Yeah, that's just it. I mean, again, in a win, you make a ton of mistakes, and you identify them and you fix them. In a loss, they're people obviously jump on them, and that's fine. But the process is the same. It's just the biggest thing is that the spirit of the team and the guys, they have the willingness to do something about it, and they did. Everybody was in good spirits this morning, as good as could be expected in this situation. Have to again give Arizona a ton of credit, but there's just a lot of stuff in this game that it makes it that much more of a bitter pill to swallow in terms of kind of the self-inflicted wounds and some of the mistakes we made.
What was your message to the team this morning?
Just that, our effort was really good. Our execution, our discipline, a bunch of things that we control was not good enough. It's not good enough to play the schedule that we play. We need to play more cleanly in every phase.
What's the workload like for the coaches this weekend? You have a day or a day and a half off, more than you would on a Saturday game. What do you guys do this weekend while the players are off?
Yeah, that's another part of it that is today is kind of, we treat it as a hybrid. After the game, steal a little bit from what we would normally do on the previous game Monday, and so we did that this morning, and then this afternoon and evening will be spent on both self-scout, improving what we're doing, and then a little bit of UCLA, and then we're going to take basically a half day tomorrow, all UCLA, and then force them to get out of here and try to get their minds off of it as much as possible, and then come back full-blown UCLA on Sunday.
Scott had said last night that Marcus was banged up from WSU, wasn't 100%. Can you elaborate on what that didn't maybe allow you guys to do normally with him?
Yeah, I think, again, coaches, everybody thinks that our injury policy is hard or easy, depending on which way you look at it. We believe 100% in our guys. We believe 100% in our team, and I know that Frosty obviously is trying to have the back of Marcus. But if we gave everybody that crutch at the beginning of their career, and hey, we need to wean into this, and hey, we need to wean into that, then Marcus isn't Marcus as a freshman. And we're going to put the best guy in the best situation in every phase at every position for the betterment of our team.
In the game, though, did you feel like you couldn't do some certain things with Marcus that?
There's things that we can't do with a lot of people, and that's. But if we just sit here and talk about what we can't do and what we can't do, then we're not solving the problems.
Mark, every team in the North Division has a loss. The Pac-12 is pretty parity crazy right now. It makes for fun weekends in the Pac-12, but is that good for the conference?
We'll find out. We'll find out. That was I think some of the trepidation early on in the whole college football playoff movement, is there wasn't that declaration really of conference champion A, B, C, D. It's up to somebody else, and as soon as your record isn't -0, you lose the con. And so from that standpoint, that's a little bit frustrating, but we can't we can't do anything about that now. Just like we can't do anything about, winning a previous game. You can't do anything about losing a previous game if you don't handle your business moving forward. I think there's going to be a ton of movement nationally, as well as in our conference. This is a tough conference, as we've said for a long time, coupled with the toughest path to the playoff. We're gonna say something else.
I was going to ask if he was banged up a little bit. What's the thinking behind rolling him out on that trick play, which worked and looked great, but he kind of opens them up to a big hit for Marcus.
Yeah, again with Marcus and everybody else, we're dialed into, their mind and their mindset and their level of health, let's say, prior to the game, and obviously he's a guy that we talk to a lot during the course of a game.
You guys averaged, I think, 3.5 yards a carry last night, and it was 4.1 or 2, I think, against Washington State. Normally, in the past 4 or 5 years, it's been up by 6 yards a carry is what you guys have averaged. Mm-hmm. How do you get back? Is there a way to get back to that aside from getting Jake Fisher and Andre healthy again?
Sure. And they're again, part of that is give Arizona credit. Part of that is, if Marcus doesn't fall down, that's a 70-yard touchdown. When he just flat slips. We had a couple near kick out, home run, big plays. We had a couple missed assignments up front, and so you put all that together, and that's. That again is where it was frustrating. Of a ton of the time it's a 3-man rush and a 5-man box, and we were unable to get a ton out of the running game. And so part of that is on the coaches, and then we'll coach it out. Coach it from there, coach the execution from there.
There's a lot of maybe talk or frustration from fans about the offensive line, and maybe not frustration, but ragging on some of the guys who are in there now. What do you think about your offensive line right now? And can you still have a successful season with the guys that are playing on the line right now?
Absolutely. Believe me, though, there's nobody that has a higher level of frustration than guys that maybe don't put forth their ideal effort. And our guys, our coaches first, and our guys are going to do everything in our power to play at an optimum level. And there's again, like I said the other night, I have 100% confidence in everybody in that room.
Tony Washington's penalty, that bow has been something your guys have done all season, it seems. And against Washington State, Keenan and Devin did it in the end zone, and I think Tony and another defender did it at the end of the game. It hasn't been flagged. It was flagged last night. Obviously, I assume we're not going to see that from your guys anymore, but what do you tell your players? What's the policy on this team about celebrations like that? It's different than it's not a touchdown celebration. We know what you guys do for touchdowns. What is that?
Yeah, we talked about that last night and talked about it today. There's nothing, there's probably nothing worthwhile in life, and definitely zero in football that's done individually. Nothing. And we celebrate with our teammates in everything we do. That rule is, I think, very subjectively enforced across the landscape, but that aside, that's not what we're all about. And Tony felt horribly last night, felt horrible this morning, and it wasn't one play, but that's a significant situation for sure.
Early in the game, you guys looked like the tempo was going really quickly for 2 or 3 drives. I guess your assessment of the tempo and keeping that up, even when the running game can't really get you guys going. Mm-hmm. You still have to feel like you're able to ground people. We
were trying to, and that again is the biggest thing in that deal is getting something out of first down. And we had a couple times where we did whatever 4, 6, 7, and you kind of get a little bit of a rhythm, a little bit of some momentum, and then that was just not consistent enough to be able to do that, on a long-term basis. But that's definitely something that is part of our arsenal and something we really believe in.
What do you think about defensive line when Armstead has to miss the second half? Watching the film back this morning, what do you think of the line going forward? Yeah,
I think again defensively, we just a lot of guys had eyes in too many spots. In that kind of game, it's assignment football, and if I'm the B gap player, I'm the B gap player, and we got some whether it was the defensive lineman or the whatever the second level position was, a linebacker or safety, fit in another gap. Trying to do a little bit too much, or just not fit properly, peak, whatever it may entail that then leads to a big play.
That seems to be maybe a theme for the team this year. Offensive line as well. You've said before that guys are doing too much, kind of looking at what the other guys are doing. How do you get your players to stop that and just focus on their job?
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's show it to them on film and drill it and fix it. And that's why teams run, that's why a lot of teams run this type of offense, and that type of offense is, if you're not right, it's ugly. And a big play is on the other side for the offense. And tackles in space, all those kind of things that are paramount in defending that type of offense. But yeah, again, our guys came in a fix-it mode this morning, which is encouraging.
Just to build off of that, obviously with guys making physical errors, sometimes you worry about overcorrecting, guys trying to focus on it too much, playing within their head. When it's mental mistakes, is that a concern as well, that sort of overcorrecting, really focusing on trying to do their job almost too exclusively? Does that happen at all?
That would be a good problem. If you're exclusively doing your job and sprinting to the football, if we're talking defensively, that's exactly what you want. I think overthinking is entering the fray, and again, eyes in too many places. Your eyes, if you're going to be a great football player, your eyes can focus on one thing, period. And as soon as you start guessing, that again is in that type of offense or in our type of offense, that's when you kind of feel that you can do some things. But trying to overcompensate for somebody else is a recipe for disaster.
There were a couple of 3rd and longs last night where you guys ran the ball and picked up 3 or 4 yards. Looking back on the game, you wish that those play calls had been different, that you had thrown for it in those situations.
It's easy now, and that's going into the game. We have a bunch of multi-layered stuff that is either a run pass option, either 2 or 3 layer type of a deal. And again, how they were deployed in those looks was ideal to run the ball. And there's again, that's part of the deal, is the second guessing of that, and that's fine.
So those were was the right decision in those. Who's making the decision to run when you get to the line? You've got the run pass option. Is that Marcus?
Yep, our quarterback. Yep.
Did he make the correct decision?
Yes. Yep. Yep. As far as those types of things, don't quote me on it. I'm just saying in terms of decision making, was about 100% as far as where it should all go. But that's where it's an 11-man job. Everybody has to be on board to run it or throw it.
When you have these late kicks, what time do you leave the building? What time do you get back in? Obviously, just what your workflow on these things when especially after a loss, when you're probably eager to get back at it.
Workflow.
Were you outside of the building for a few hours before you had to be back in?
I don't know what time. I left, and there wasn't. Not a lot of sleep last night. And then a lot of us were back in here early. The staff did a frustrating night. Did as good a job as possible today, and those guys. We care a ton about our guys, and to see them in that mode, it's almost harder. I think it's harder on the staff more than the players. Players are a little bit more resilient than the older guys, but I think that's just for the passion that we have for our players, and respect the heck out of every one of those guys that's up there right now.
You said that last night, that players, coaches tend to dwell on it longer.
Yeah.
Is there something you've learned over your career to let go mechanism?
Trying to, but I think you'd be a billionaire psychologist if you could do that. If the competitive nature of the guys in this business, it's hard to just turn the page, but we will, and we that's kind of by design of what we've done today and tomorrow, and we'll be chomping at the bit to get out there Monday for sure.
Last year, you guys lost to Stanford, and maybe because of that, maybe not because of that. The Arizona loss happened a couple weeks later, and it seemed like there was a lack of focus in that game, and maybe because you already had that loss, and so some guys thought, well, we're out of the national title picture. How do you avoid something like that happening this year, where this loss snowballs kind of mentally?
Again, I think just our approach is the same. We came in, we looked at the film, said this is good, this we need to improve upon, and moved on. You know, it's exactly how you treat a victory. You say, hey, we should have done this better. Let's do more of this. You know, A, B, C, D, and flip it.
Do you sense that they are able to do that? That this team,
They will.
players are able to do that?
They will. Yep.